In the game of Ice Flow, you're going to get this board. You're going to get these tiles that are like ice blocks floating through the ocean here. Each player is going to get 3 explorers plus a backpack which holds items. You're going to start with a fish and a rope in your backpack, and you can hold up to 3 items. So this person has 1 extra space. Each player is going to get their own card, which kind of describes the things you can do. These are the movement actions. This is what you can do with a rope or a fish if you have one. So I have this set up for 3 players. This red player, I have the pieces here, but I'm not going to actually play with that 4th player. You have your supply of polar bears, rope, and fish. And then you have your draw cards, which are going to determine what goes on these ice blocks when they go into the ocean. So to start the game, you're going to take all these ice blocks and you're going to put them into the bag. And then each player in a 3-player game will draw 4 ice blocks. If you're playing a 4-player game, 3 ice each. And if you're playing a 2-player game, I guess 6 ice each. As long as you have 12 of these drawn. So let me go ahead and put these in the bag. Alright, so for the first player, you would just reach in and you would draw 3 of these ice tiles. And then these would just go to player 1, and they're going to place those. Then you draw 3 for the next player and the next player, and so on. All right, then what's going to happen is you're going to go, you would go in reverse player order in placing these, but I'm just going to put them out there. So this player is going to get to choose to place one of these tiles. So now if you look at the tile, some edges are straight and some are like damaged, essentially, and that's going to affect movement, and I'll talk about that later. So what's going to happen is this person is going to take this ice pack, and then they're going to draw a card and see if anything gets placed on it. So he draws this card, and what's going to go on this ice pack is 2 rope and 1 fish. And then this person is going to get to place this ice piece anywhere on the board as long as it's not in one of the starting positions, and once it gets placed, the next player can't place around it. So this card gets set to the side, and so this is going to get placed. So let's just say this player puts this piece of ice right there like that. And then the next player would take their piece of ice and they would look at their card. This is going to get a rope. So take a rope and put it on there. And then player 2 is going to choose, you could put this if you wanted to, like this. So let me go ahead and finish setting up the board. And actually, before I finish setting up the board, you should place your explorers first. So let me go ahead and just get these out there. So when you place your explorers, they're going to go over here in Alaska, and only 2 explorers can be placed in each city. So let's just say gray, he goes here, and then maybe yellow goes here, and black goes down here, and then gray maybe goes here. Yellow puts another one in the same spot, which is fine. Black, maybe he puts one up by the gray person. Gray puts one down here, and yellow goes here, and this black character goes down there. And then now you would do the ice. So let me go ahead and finish setting up the ice. Alright, so now we have all the ice blocks set up. So you have one here with 2 rope and a fish. Here you have a polar bear and a fish and a rope, 2 fish and a rope, fish, rope, polar bear, fish, and rope. And notice there's no tiles are at the starting positions because they can't go there, and no tile has another one placed on the borders around it because you can't do that either. And so that would be the initial setup for the board. And then what's going to happen is you're going to have player 1, which will be the white player. You have 2 actions you can do, and you can do them in either order. Either A, you can affect how a ice piece moves, and then after you do that, you can move your explorer or go fishing. So one of the things you can do is you can move a piece of ice in the direction. So if you look at the board, they have different colored paths. Now a piece of ice, if I was to move this, it would move one space because it has one arrow. So if I were to move this, it would go like that. Or in this one, it has two arrows and it goes in the opposite direction. So if I were to move this one, I could go 1, 2, like that. This one goes down and it would go 3. So this would go 1, 2, 3 spots like that. And then you can see it breaks off. I can choose either to have it go down this path or this path later. This one goes 3 going in the up direction, this one 2 in the down direction, this one goes 1 in the up direction. And what you're trying to do is you're trying to get all of your explorers from Alaska over to Siberia. There are 4 stations in Siberia, and you have to get one of your explorers in a different city. So you have 4 cities to choose from, but you have to get an explorer in 3 of these 4 cities. All right, so that is option 1 for movement. Option 2 is I can rotate an ice piece. So if I wanted to, the reason you might want to do that is because an explorer, like this explorer, if I wanted to take my move, I could just jump right onto this ice piece because there is a smooth edge on the side of it. However, if this piece, let's say, was like this, all right, and it had a rough edge, I couldn't get on here unless I spent a rope. And what would happen is I would have to take a rope from my sack, and then I would leave the rope where I was at, and I would move on to the piece. But what I could do instead is I could rotate the piece so that it has a smooth edge, and then I could just move right onto it. So that would be another option. I believe that was like that. The third option is I could just go into the bag and I could just draw a new piece of ice, and then what would happen is I would draw a card and see what's on it, and then I would place this piece of ice in a starting position, either up at one of the top spaces or down at one of the bottom spaces. So the first player is the gray player, so let's just say for his first move he is going to, let's see, for the ice, well, he can move or do ice in either order. So first he's going to move. So he's going to move from here to here. And now he's on this piece of ice. So now he can either move a piece of ice or he can draw a new one. So he is going to, let's see. Well, let's see. He can continue moving. You can move as far as you want. So he moved to this spot. Now he can move again if he wants to go through the water. He would go from the water onto this piece if he wanted to. Now to go through water, it costs you a fish. It's like your body gets cold and you need warmth in the water. So let's just say he does that for the sake of this. So he has a fish in his backpack. So he's going to eat the fish. So I'm just going to put that back in the supply. And that will allow him to go from here. And since it is a blank or a soft side, he's able to move right onto it. So now he moves there. Alright, so does he want to continue moving? Let's see, he doesn't have any more fish, so he can't go through the water, so he can't move anymore. Now he can see, if he wants, what he can do is he can move this piece of ice 3 spots, 1, 2, 3. So 1, 2, 3 to here. And now if he's able to obtain a fish, he would be able to move from here to here. So that is his turn. He moved his guy and he moved a ice block. Then next it would be the yellow player's turn. And so yellow has 2 people here. He could move onto this ice piece if he wanted. He could just move from this, well, let's see, there's no spot here. So these, you can move in between the cities up here if you want, or the cities down here, but you can't move from here between the empty spot into the lower city. So here he can move to this spot if he wanted to, but there's a polar bear, so he would have to scare the polar bear away or distract it, and it would cost a fish to do that. So if he wanted to, like, he could go here, all right, and then he has a fish in his backpack, so he could feed the polar bear a fish if he wanted to, and then that would allow the polar bear to eat while he moves onto another tile, but there's no tile for him to access unless he wanted to swim from here to there, but he would need a fish to do that, and he would have spent his fish feeding the polar bear, so he wouldn't have a fish. Even though there's a fish here, you can't pick it up and use it in the same turn. So maybe he doesn't want to move that guy. Let's see. Actually, before I do that, this person, when he finished his movement, he finished on this tile. And once you finish on a tile, you're able to pick up one item. So he was able to pick up this rope and put it in his sack. So let me go ahead and do that. All right, so now we're back to the yellow player. So if the yellow player wanted, he could move this guy onto this tile and take this fish and put it in his sack, so that now he has 2 fish in his sack. And then on a next move, if he wanted to, he could use 1 fish to feed this polar bear from his sack, and then the other one to be able to swim across to this tile if he wanted to do that. But so far he just moved onto this tile. Now, what does he want to do? He has to move an ice floe or bring one in. And he could, let's see, does he want to move any of them? He could move this one up 2 spots. So 1, 2. That way, if he does get onto this tile, he has the option of swimming across to this one or swimming across to this one. If he swam across to this one, it would cost 1 rope, which he has to get through this blockage on the ice because it's rough on this side. But if he went this way, he would need 2 rope, 1 to get off of this one and then 1 to get onto this one. And he only has 1 rope. So at this point, he would not be able to do that. But now it is the black player's turn. Alright, so the black player can get onto here if he wants and get a rope. Or he can get onto here and get a rope or a fish. And now let's see, if he gets onto this ice floe, there's nothing here, but he could draw a piece of ice to enter this area if he wanted to. Let's just say he does that. He is going to, actually first what he's going to do is draw the ice to see what comes out. So he's going to draw out of the bag a new piece of ice, and he gets this. And then what's going to happen is, I'm going to draw a card to see if anything goes on it. And a fish and a rope is going to go on that piece of ice. So let's get a fish and a rope. And it goes on this piece of ice. Now it's going to go, where does he want to place it? He might want to place it here. And if he places it on and move like that, move like that. Alright, so he's going to place it. I could get on it and then move it. Alright, he's going to place it like this, and then he's going to take one of his explorers. He's going to take the one that can get on easily. He's going to get on to here, and he's going to take a fish in case he needs to eat it to swim. So he's going to put that in his pack over there. And then it goes back to the yellow player. Now the yellow, or the gray or white player, whatever, this guy. So now he has 2 pieces of rope in his sack, alright? So he's not going to be able to move this guy. So let's look at down here. He has a guy down here and a guy down here. His other option is he can move an ice floe. He could move this one up, but then he'd be moving backwards. This one would move 1, 2, 3. So what he's going to do is he's going to take this guy here and move. Well, does he have any fish? No, he doesn't. So he can't get onto here because you would need a fish to scare the polar bear. So he can't get onto there. So I guess he would have to get onto here. Or does he want to move the ice? Let's see. So what he could do is he could move this one. So it can move up to 3, but what would happen is it would move and then it would just kind of ram into this one, which would stop its movement. And then now he would be able to cross from here to here. This side is broken, this side is not, so it just cost him 1 rope. So what would happen is he would attach a rope to this side of the ice and then fling it across to the other one so that he can move across to this tile here. This gets left behind, and now he stops at this. He can stop here if he wants, or he could go up to here if he wants. And this is a broken side, so it would cost him another rope to move across here. But he's going to stop here because he wants to collect the fish. So he's going to take the fish. And then it goes to yellow player's turn, who has 2 fish and a rope in his sack. So yellow, let's see, he could move, let's see, he could move this tile down here if he wants. He could get onto this one. It would cost him a fish to distract, to scare the polar bear. I'll just do that just so you can see what it is. So you can either pay a fish to feed the polar bear so that you can get onto the thing and then move off of it. So to move through a tile with a polar bear, you would give a fish to the polar bear to eat it, and so while it's eating, you're able to get on and off of the tile. Or you could spend a fish where essentially it's like you take the fish and you throw it, and then the polar bear goes after it. So for example, he could go here, and then he could essentially throw the fish in this direction. And so what would happen is this would disappear, and then the polar bear would chase it, and the polar bear would chase the path, which is this way, until either it landed on another ice floe, or as would happen here, it just goes until it's off the board, and then he's gone for now. And so that was his movement to get onto there. He used a fish to scare the thing, and so he stops here, and he's going to collect a fish and put the fish in his bag, and then that's the end of his movement. And then it would be the black player's turn. So black is down here. Black can cross from here to here, and they're both smooth, so he doesn't need to do anything to get there. And then black has a full bag, so he's not going to be able to collect anything, but then he can move his ice 2 spots because it has 2 arrows. So then this would go 1, 2, and then that would be the end of his move. On his next one, this is an island in the center of the game, so if he wanted to, he could get over to this island and stand on it. And there are cards in here that you could turn that would put goods on here. So that was black's turn. Then it goes back to gray's turn, so let's just say gray is going to go from this ice block to this one, so he's going to spend a rope, so he attaches it to this side so that he can move here. And then does he want to continue moving? He could go from, let's see, smooth to smooth. Alright, so he could eat a fish. This is the last item in this thing to warm up his body, so this just goes to the discard, which allows him to go into the water onto this tile, and he ends his movement there, and he picks up a fish and puts that in his sack. So now he is here, and on his next turn, he can eat the fish to go from here to here, and he'll have one guy already over in Siberia. Next we would go to yellow, and yellow can, let's see, he's got, what's he got? He's got a fish and a rope. What he can do is he can rotate this tile if he wanted to, and that's his ice block movement. Then what he can do is he can attach a rope to here to go into the water, which he'll need to eat a fish, and he has 2, so he eats a fish to stay warm, and he's able to jump onto here because it's a smooth side, so he's onto here. Does he want to continue his movement? He could go from smooth to smooth side, or he could actually jump off this smooth side here into the ocean, eat his last fish if he wants to end up on the island in the middle. That's something he can do. I'll just do that for the heck of it. But by doing that, he didn't get to pick up anything, so all this stuff he could have gotten got left behind. And the black player, let's just say he's going to do the same thing. He's going to jump off of here into the ocean. He's going to eat a fish to stay warm and end up on the island here. And so he's got a guy there. Then it goes back to the white player's turn. So what he's going to do, he's going to jump off the smooth side of here into the ocean, eat a fish to stay warm, and he has a guy over here. Now he has a guy in Siberia. He has to get 2 more over here, but he can't get another guy in here. He either has to get a guy in here or here or here. And so essentially that's how the game plays out. You know, you have your other guys and you're just trying to get them across. So these guys, notice there's all this empty space. So what they're going to have to do is, you know, someone's going to probably have to move this. It moves 3 spaces. So 1, 2, 3 would move that there. And you would have to get on here, get the polar bear off. You probably have to move this down 2 spots, maybe go into the water to here. But you got to kind of calculate things, and somebody else could see what you're doing, and they could, like, you know, let's say the yellow and black player had this set up, and then it's the gray player's turn. He can go for his next move. He could go like, I don't know, 1, 2. Well, they'd still be able to swim to that, but you know, he can kind of move it, try to get these things to move out of the paths that they're going. Anyway, that's kind of how the game works, and you're just trying to get to the other side of the Bering Strait.